Riding the vibe train punch that like pop aboard with a subscribe. And let's level up this journey. Bigger surprises ahead. Trust me, you'll want to stick around. Let's start the video. The Battle of Trafalgar. In 1792, the French Revolution ignited a firestorm across Europe. A fire Napoleon Bonaparte would harness to forge an empire. For over a decade, France and Britain clashed in a duel for global supremacy. On land, Napoleon's armies marched unchecked. But at sea, Britain's Royal Navy reigned supreme. And no one embodied its spirit more than Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson. This is the story of his final immortal victory, Trafalgar. By 1805, Napoleon dominated Europe, yet Britain remained a thorn in his side, bankrolling coalitions, strangling French trade, and blockading ports. To crush his nemesis, Napoleon devised a bold plan: assemble a vast invasion fleet, seize control of the English Channel, and march into London. But first, he needed to lure the Royal Navy away. His weapon? Admiral Pierre Villeneuve, a cautious but competent commander ordered to decoy Nelson's fleet to the West Indies. Villeneuve's mission was fraught: escape the British blockade at Toulon, cross the Atlantic, then race back, hoping to unite France's scattered squadrons into what? An unstoppable armada. But Nelson, ever relentless, gave chase. For months, the two fleets danced across oceans, Villeneuve barely evading disaster at Cape Finisterre. By August, Napoleon's patience snapped. With Austria and Russia mobilizing, he abandoned invasion plans and marched his Army of England eastward. Villeneuve, now ordered to the Mediterranean, faced a dilemma: obey and risk battle with Nelson, or retreat to Cadiz. When news arrived that Napoleon planned to replace him, pride forced Villeneuve's hand. On October 19th, 33rd French and Spanish ships slipped out of Cadiz and into history. Nelson's plan was radical. Rejecting traditional parallel lines, he split his 27 ships into two columns to punch through Villeneuve's crescent formation. The gamble? His lead ships would endure merciless broadsides during the approach. But once inside the enemy line, British gunnery would decide the day. At dawn on October 21st, the combined fleet drifted haphazardly off Cape Trafalgar. Villeneuve's last-minute order to reverse course had left his line in disarray. Ships bunched, crews untested, and admirals squabbling. Nelson, by contrast, addressed his men. England expects every man will do his duty. The signal, hoisted on HMS Victory's mast, ignited a roar across the fleet. At 11:45 a.m., the British columns crept forward at a snail's pace, just at and finest 3 knots in light winds. For 40 agonizing minutes, French and Spanish guns pounded the approaching ships. Splinters flew, sails shredded, men fell. But Nelson's crews held fire, conserving ammunition for point-blank volleys. Aboard Bucentaur, Villeneuve watched in dread. "The British admiral is determined to break our line," he muttered. His own ships, undermanned and low on supplies, struggled to reload. Spanish Admiral Gravina, commanding the elite Príncipe de Asturias, urged closer formation, but confusion reigned. At 12:15 p.m., Collingwood's Royal Sovereign pierced the enemy line, unleashing a double-shotted broadside into Santa Anna's stern. "See how that noble fellow Collingwood carries his ship into action," Nelson reportedly exclaimed. Minutes later, Victory crossed Bucentaur's stern, her 50 guns raking Villeneuve's flagship with a firestorm. The admiral's cabin exploded. 200 men fell in an instant. Chaos engulfed the Allied center. Victory and Redoubtable locked in a death grapple, French Marines raining musket fire onto Victory's deck. Nelson, conspicuous in his medals, paced the quarterdeck. "They're aiming for you, sir," pleaded Captain Hardy. Nelson shrugged. "It is too late to be cautious." Moments later, a sniper's bullet struck his shoulder, piercing his lung. Below decks, surgeons labored as the battle raged. Nelson, fading, demanded updates. "What of the enemy?" 14 or 15 captured, the rest in flight, Hardy reported. "That is well," Nelson whispered, "but I had hoped for 20. By 4:30 p.m., 18 French and Spanish ships had struck their colors. But triumph turned to terror as a hurricane swept in. For 3 days, crippled ships battled towering waves. British prize crews fought desperately to save their captures. Santa Anna, her decks awash, nearly sank before limping to Gibraltar. The French Achille, ablaze from stem to stern, erupted in a cataclysm visible for miles. 400 souls lost, yet amidst the carnage, defiance flickered. Spanish sailors aboard San Juan Nepomuceno, refusing surrender, attacked their British captors, only to be subdued by Marines. Admiral Gravina, mortally wounded, escaped to Cadiz lamenting, "The Spanish fought like lions, but were led by just donkeys." Villeneuve, imprisoned aboard HMS Conqueror, scribbled a bitter letter to Napoleon. "Sire, I beg you never to employ me again at sea." Within months, he was dead. Stabbed 6 times in a Paris inn, ruled suicide by a court eager to please the emperor. Nelson's body, preserved in a cask of brandy, returned to a Britain in mourning. Thousands lined the Thames as victory docked at Greenwich. His state funeral, a spectacle unseen since Marlborough, cemented his legend. Napoleon, victorious. At Austerlitz, scoffed, "A single battle cannot decide the fate of empires." Yet Trafalgar ensured Britain's mastery of the seas for a century. Napoleon turned to economic warfare, the continental system, but blockades only deepened Europe's resentment. By 1815, Wellington's armies toppled the emperor at Waterloo, funded by British gold, and shielded by the navy Nelson forged. As das ist, or Churchill later declared, Trafalgar saved not just Britain, but the future of free nations. Today, victory rests in Portsmouth, a monument to the men who fought, and the admiral who dared the impossible. Nelson's final signal, engage. The enemy more closely remains the Royal Navy's creed, and a testament to courage that shaped our world.